Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Wide Nation of Sports by Hunter Tickle. Hit that subscribe button for first access to exclusive behind the scenes interviews from the NFL, NBA, and college hoops and more. And remember, folks, talks over takes. Welcome to the pod, everyone. Today we are joined by our guest. He's the head coach of the Indiana State basketball program. He's been on staff at ISU, Xavier, Evansville, Butler, where he was the associate coach for consecutive championship game finishes. He returns to the coach's podium after a 5-year bid there with South Alabama. He's 6 points shy of 1,000 points there at Butler, where he played. Took the Bulldogs to the Big Dance twice. His name is Matthew Graves. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
No, I appreciate you having me on. How you doing today?
Doing great.
Good,
If
good.
hypothetically speaking, if you have a COVID year with Butler, how many points over 1,000 are you going? And are you guys getting your first big dance win there for Butler?
You know what? I think we have a good chance. If that team in '98, we were we had five seniors on that team, and four of us were actually older guys anyway. So I think certainly, again, it comes down to matchups, but I think we would have a great opportunity. And then I probably would have had another 350, 400 points. I was very unlucky. I missed several games at different points, during my career versus, for various reasons, knee and ankle stuff. And, I just look back on it and you only wish, you know, made made two more threes to get it done. But it's a good talking point and everybody makes fun of it. And that's part of it. But, had a great time there at Butler and, being able to score 994 points. Very fortunate.
Two more threes from the legendary Butler gunner, Butler shooter. Coach, you just passed 3 years now here at Indiana State. You and now St. Louis coach Josh Schertz started the rebuild here at Indiana State then. Is it kind of surreal to kind of think that, so quickly you kind of got into this position? And then, is it a kind of a pinch me moment, like where you're like, all right, well, the change of the guard happened, but now you're taking over a mid-major program, one that just came off a great year, legendary year, and just knowing that, these positions don't grow on trees, as you know.
No, it's a combination of things. When I first came over here with Josh, in my mind, I'm leaving a job where I was, at a high major. And, a lot of people were like, why would you do that? Why are you living? You're at a great spot at Xavier. They're in the Big East. Why are you coming to Terre Haute, Indiana at Indiana State? And, there's a multitude of reasons why, but one of the, reasons certainly was these jobs, like you said, they don't grow on trees. Head coaching jobs are hard to get. There's only 363 of them. And I felt like my best opportunity to eventually become a head coach again would be at a place that I was more familiar with. And obviously Indiana State checked that box. And, secondly, at a place where, you could go and build something. Now, I thought it would be longer than 3 years. We had, some good luck on our side. We did a good job with some evaluations and recruiting. A lot of chips fell in place. And obviously, as you mentioned, we had a great year this past year. And, I was fortunate enough to be hired this spring. And, it was a pinch me moment. It's like, wow, in 3 short years, you have an opportunity to go from not knowing if you'd ever get to be a head coach again to being a head coach at a school in the Missouri Valley in your own backyard. So, to have all those boxes checked, is certainly, something that you could only dream of.
And no doubt the congratulations had to be pouring in from family, friends. it's your second shot to be a D1 coach. Last one was in 2013, started 2013 with South Alabama. Has there been, whether it was then or now, has there been some really good advice you've gotten from, the coaches that you've kind of been networking with and kind of in contact with? And what second part, like what do you see as something that maybe some coaches that you got to keep on speed dial just in case you need a pointer or a tip here or there from some guys?
Well, I think a lot of that is, for me in this position, the second time around, it's, I'm more confident, I'm more comfortable in my own skin. When I took that job in 2013 at South Alabama, I had only been in what my former assistant affectionately called the Butler bubble. You only knew what you knew. I played at Butler for 5 years. Obviously, I coached in high school for 3 years before I went back to Butler. But, Butler was, all I knew. And we had a tremendous amount of success. But also at the same time, the players that we had there at Butler were also unique. You had a certain academic standard at Butler, and you had already had an established culture, which I was a part of as a player. So you had a lot of built-in, I don't want to call it, maybe safeguards might be the right word, kind of guide rails. And then you take that job at South Alabama where, there's things that occurred at that job that I'd never experienced. And that 85% of college basketball, they do experience. I was just fortunate enough to, be at a place at Butler that didn't deal with some, certain issues. One example, APR. I didn't really understand. I knew what it was, I'd heard of it, but at Butler, you never had to worry about APR and graduation rates and, things like that. And, a lot of other places do. But, being able to network and talk to, Brad Stevens is a great friend of mine. And, he'll text, call, I can get him on the phone anytime I need to, as a great resource. Micah Shrewsbury, who we worked together at Butler and, is now, worked with Brad and now is the head coach at Notre Dame, a great friend of mine. But guys, I worked with at Xavier, and, Travis Steele, he's at Miami of Ohio now, Ben Johnson at Minnesota, Jonas Hayes, who's at Georgia State. My former assistants, Darnell Archie, he's a head coach at Mobile, Brock Morris, he's one of the top assistants at Oklahoma. So all those guys are great resources for me. But the one message was very consistent is be who you are. You were doing the right things. We had the culture was established. We were graduating young men. We were doing things out in the community. Ultimately, the only thing that we really didn't do is win. And I understand in this business, you have to win. That is an expectation. You've got to win basketball games. And, so that's obviously part of it. But, and I think that is going to come, being more comfortable, being more confident. And, I'm excited about the staff we have in place and, what we've been able to do so far. And, I'm excited for the future.
You mentioned that Butler bubble you were under, and then obviously the extensive network, 20 plus years in the coaching game, kind of meeting people as well outside of that. Coach, what can you tell me about, for instance, these past NBA finals, seeing a guy that you rubbed elbows with, as you said, from 2010 to 13 there at Butler, Coach Brad Stevens, who's now the president of basketball operations with the Boston Celtics. They finally got over the hump and got an NBA championship. I mean, what's that been like for you to just see your guy get that NBA World Championship?
Well, I'm just extremely excited for him and proud of what he's been able to do. And, when he was coaching, watching his teams perform and get better each year and, compete in, the Eastern Conference finals for a couple of years and kind of break through and get to the finals one year. And then, switching roles and being able to put together, a team that can compete and then ultimately win a championship and hang banner number 18. I know how proud he is of that moment. And, I'm a longtime Celtics fan. When I was a little kid, growing up watching Larry Bird, I've always been a Celtics fan, way much better than, watching the Lakers play. So big Celtics fan. And, just how exciting it is for someone that you spent so many years with coaching is achieving, winning a world championship in the NBA, at the highest level. That's just such a cool moment for him. And, I'm just thankful that, we're still really good friends, and he's been a, great advocate for me, and someone that, I call a really good friend, and can call on for advice, and just to talk about anything. And I'm just, he's on that short list of speed dial people that you love to have.
Coach, onto your ball club here in Terre Haute. Last year, you guys hit that crescendo, so many highs, so many landmarks. Just a banner year last year for you guys. And that even followed up a 20+ win year the previous year, in year two here for you in Terre Haute on the staff. Um, what can you tell me about in terms of playing style? I know Coach Schertz brought in a lot of guys from the portal last year that were able to kind of, help you guys reach that crescendo where you guys could play, spacing, 5 out, really find kind of your guys' groove in terms of, running the floor. A lot of analytical basketball, right? A lot of layups, dunks,
Mhm.
threes, good looks from three. Is this current group, my question is this current group kind of going to be a collection of players that kind of play that same style? Is it a hybrid of that style, or is it going to be maybe even like kind of your own kind of cook and kind of your own look that you want to get going?
No, that's a great question. I think it just, you go back to year one, when we started, uh, you had to build it. Obviously, Coach Schertz brought some guys from, Lincoln Memorial that understood the system a little bit, and, we had some pieces around it, and it got better as the year went on. Then obviously in year two, we made that jump to, winning 23 games. More people in the system, and, coach always referred to it as corporate knowledge. And that's so crucial. And then you think about this past year, having really, we played 6 guys most of the year. And you really think about it, even though we brought in 7 or 8 new guys last year, in the 6 guys that we played, 4 of those guys in Julian, Jason Kent, Robbie, and Jabo, 4 of those 6 guys were with us the year before. And even Jabo and Julian were with us in year one. So you had over 66% of the guys that played heavy minutes, they'd been in the system, they understood it, and there's no substitute for the experience and the corporate knowledge. And I think, to answer your question about how we're going to play, it's going to be a hybrid of what we did last year. Certainly, we want to play a lot of 5 out. We want a lot of focus. It's going to be analytical focused. Getting to the rim, non-dribble layups, dunks, trying to shoot inside out threes. Those are going to be staples. But kind of how we get there, might be a little bit different. I think, for example, Derek, JD, Marcus, those are kind of our bigger guys. They're not the passing threats that Robbie and Jabo were. And, people have to understand, with Robbie and Jabo, you not only have 2 of the best passers in the Missouri Valley, those are 2 of the best passers in the country, no matter what level. So you've got to be able to tweak and play off certain guys' strengths. And, Derek and Marcus and JD, they're a little bit better post players than what Robbie and Jabo were. So we got to figure out as coaches how to maneuver and work and put different combinations together. But to really dive in offensively, it should look very similar. We hope it looks very similar, but we've got to have our own nuances in it based upon our personnel. And, with 10 new guys on this roster, it's going to be a work in progress, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be the same formula, though. Moving forward, we've got to retain, right now on our roster, we have 4 seniors, and 8 underclassmen. And our job is we've got to do a great job. Those 8 underclassmen, they got to continue to develop. They got to continue to get better. And at the end of the season, we got to be able to retain as many of those guys as we can and then continue to adding to that. That's how you continue to build this thing.
Yeah, I think it can't be understated how much all 5 guys on the floor last year could play make. It wasn't just they could shoot or dribble or get to the rim or, get to the
Yes.
cup or, hit the open shot. It was they could also play make and move the ball, which definitely helps when you have not only guards and forward
Mhm.
centers, you have everyone on the court that can do it. Um, Coach, you talked about having that program knowledge and having some experience. As you mentioned, it was more of like a, six-man rotation last year. But there are some guys back who did get minutes, who were, in practice, were around the program. A couple or 3 here I wanted to talk about. So Aaron Gray, obviously 2-time transferred, so didn't get to play probably the first third of the season. And it really felt like it was by that point, it was kind of like the season had gone by, didn't really get his feet underneath him to get kind of a foothold in the
Right.
rotation. And then you look at Derek Vorst. He got a lot of minutes during a decent amount of minutes during the season, and then he played, I believe, almost every game in the NIT. So I know he was getting that
Mhm.
action and getting some limited time, some cameos, but was getting the time there in the postseason at the end of the year. And then a guy in Jaden Daughtry who was also retained by you. All 3 of these guys are coming back. Jaden was JD was a guy who had his moments there at Valpo, some other games where you thought, okay, like he's actually a guy that can contribute now as a freshman. What can you say about just kind of having some of those guys come back and like what that means to the program? You're rebuilding, but you're not starting from like completely zero with no main guys coming back.
Right. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. We're not starting from zero. We're starting from about 10%. So, which is good. You got to have something to build on. And, part of it, all 3 guys, as you mentioned, they did have some moments. But when you got into the season, those guys never had the opportunity to play extended minutes and really play through their mistakes. And I think that's the next step in this process for those guys is they've got to get to a point where we as a staff trust them when they go onto the court that they've got to be able to play through their mistakes and grow and develop. And none of those 3 really got that opportunity last year, for different reasons. As you mentioned with Aaron being a double transfer, from the summer through the fall, we didn't really think he was going to play anyway. It was going to be a red shirt type deal because of the second time transfer. And then all of a sudden the rule gets changed and your mindset changes and he just never did get comfortable and never got in a rhythm. And I've been really proud of how he's attacked this summer. He's had a great summer. He's trying to teach these young guys and hold them to a standard that we want to be at. And um, he's really through the first, we're in start of week 4 was today for us in our workouts. And, he's been really a staple of, holding those guys to a standard, and he's put himself in a position, to have a really good year. Derek had a chance to play a lot, especially in the NIT because of just his size. We were playing other high major programs, and
Mhm.
with him being out there and being able to get that experience, that was really good for him. And I think he adds a different element than what we didn't have last year in an ability to score around the basket in some post up situations. So we've got to figure out how to utilize Derek a little bit differently than Robbie. But at the end of the day, they're both guys that are skilled. They can play away from the basket, and we need to, Derek to have a really good year for us. And with JD, he's got all the potential in the world. Offensively, he's a bucket getter and he scores in an unorthodox way at times, but at the end of the day, it's 2 points or it's 3 points or, he gets fouled and gets to the free throw line. So he's able to do those things. What JD has to do is ultimately buy in on the defensive end of the floor, and then also buy into being an everyday guy. And that means, with his conditioning, with his focus and being able to be consistent. And if he's able to do those things, all three of those guys, are going to set themselves up to have a really good season this year.
Coach, can you give me like an expectation for this year? You guys lost your top seven, whether it was the portal or just graduation, and then obviously it's your first year. It's a new staff as well. Can you give me kind of like a mantra or like a
Yeah.
expectation for what you guys got for year one?
Yeah, I think our biggest thing, and I said this in our first team meeting back on June 10th, we want to feel like we have a team that when we get on that bus to head over to Arch Madness, we've got a team that's good enough to compete to cut down the nets on Sunday. That is our goal. Now, what does that look like? I have no idea. Is that a 10-win team going over there? Is that a 15, 20, 25-win team going over there? I have no idea. There's too many, pieces to fill in and too many things to go through. But ultimately, our whole deal, especially coming off this past year where, you're, top 30 in the net and you go over there and, you don't get it done and you go play in the NIT, which is a great experience, but ultimately everybody wants to be in the NCAA tournament. So what's the best way to guarantee us to be in the NCAA tournament is to have a team that we feel like is good enough when we step on that bus, heading to Arch Madness to go cut down the nets. And that's our goal from day one. It's not about how many win. Obviously, we want to win every game. There's no question about that. But to my knowledge, unless I'm wrong, there's been only one team that's won every single game they've played, in the last 50 years. So you're going to have your ups and downs, but ultimately, are you playing your best basketball when it matters the most? And that's when, for us, it's going to the conference tournament.
And then this isn't Terre Haute news, but I'm sure that this kind of came across your plate recently. Um, what's the bigger story here? Dan Hurley of UConn flirting with the Lakers, him returning to UConn, or the Lakers being turned down by the back-to-back national champion coach?
I that's a great question. I think it's the Lakers being turned down. I think that's that's part of it. But I'll say this for Coach Hurley, and I was at Xavier when we played UConn a couple times, and the job that he does with that team is unbelievable. And if you have an opportunity to go for a three-peat, how cool is that? That would be hard to walk away from. And let's face it, let's be real candid. If he does go and have a three-peat, don't you think he'll probably have some NBA offers again? So, I'm
Right.
with him. I would roll the dice and try to go three-peat at UConn. And, I think that's going to be an incredible story. But, I think to the, basketball fan, I think, him going back to UConn is probably the bigger story. But to the general fan, out there, it's, oh my God, he turned the Lakers down. And, but I think if you really dive into it as a sports guy, even on your side of it in the media, going back to UConn, that's pretty cool. That's a big time deal.
He's in the marketplace. You're right. The jobs should start calling. The NBA offices will probably start calling now that he's revealed his cards, really revealed his hand a little bit, right? Slightly. Um, Coach, first year with the Sycamores this year. I know you probably have some sort of a preference for clipboards, the rock basketballs. Some sort of programming for scouting or for finding people. Anything you can tell me in terms of some of the equipment you use or what you might be implementing, some new whistles, like anything like who you go to for kind of that kind of stuff?
No, no. I mean, I'm very, very old school. I like the old the NCAA basketballs and the old Fox whistles. They got the nice ringtone to them, and they're nice and loud. So clipboards. I really don't get into the clipboards too much. I think in my 5 years at South Alabama, I think I broke two clipboards. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job. under one every other year. I think that's good. So
Okay.
hopefully I won't have to worry about breaking any clipboards this year.
So who's stocking like your whistles, or like like is there like a company or like a brand, or like how does that kind of work?
No, I just end up, we go through pace setters and,
Okay.
we get our whistles down there and,
Okay.
I say, hey, I need a whistle, can't find a whistle or whatever, and we'll go down there and get some good whistles.
They're big time fans. I know of the Sycamores, so that's cool. Coach, it's been great to have you on today. Thanks for stopping by. Best of wishes. We have the first year basketball coach of the Indiana State Sycamores. His Twitter handle is at Coach Graves 10.